I thought I knew pain. Losing a job, losing a friend, even losing a loved one. But nothing could prepare me for what I saw that night. She was my wife, the woman I vowed to spend forever with. And yet, in our own home, in our own bed, she gave herself to another man. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I just left. And for 3 days, I was gone. 3 days of silence. Then, on the third day, the news broke. Her affair partner was wanted by the police, and somehow, everyone thought I had something to do with it. You don't just wake up one day expecting your whole life to crumble. If anything, I thought I had done everything right. I met Lisa 5 years ago. She wasn't just beautiful. She was kind, supportive, and had this way of making life feel lighter. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or so I thought. I worked my ass off to build a life for us, took extra shifts, pulled all-nighters when money was tight, and even put my own dreams on hold to make sure she had everything she needed. She wanted to go back to school, so I covered the bills while she focused on classes. She wanted to start a business, so I drained my savings to help her launch it. Every sacrifice, every late night, every exhausted morning, I did it all for us. And she knew it. Or at least, I thought she did. There were signs, of course. There always are. The nights she worked late, the sudden secrecy with her phone, the way she'd roll over in bed just a little too quickly when I walked in. But love makes you blind. I brushed it all off, convinced myself I was just overthinking. Then, one night, I found out exactly how wrong I was. At first, it was little things that, on their own, wouldn't mean much. Lisa was always on her phone. That wasn't new. But the way she used it changed. She used to text in front of me, laughing at messages, even showing me funny conversations. But lately, she kept it close, turned the screen away when I walked by. One night, we were on the couch, watching a show we both used to love. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down and I caught it, just for a second. A name, just a first name, one I didn't recognize. I wasn't the jealous type. I trusted her. Or at least I wanted to. But then came the late nights, the sudden need to work extra hours. I'd wake up at 2 a.m., reach over and find her side of the bed cold. I'd hear the muffled sound of her voice from the other room, low, intimate. And when I asked, she'd say it was just a friend she never talked about before, a friend whose name she refused to mention. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until one night, she made a mistake. It was nearly midnight. I was exhausted from work, but she hadn't come home yet. She said she was out with friends, but something didn't sit right. Then her phone rang. Not her phone. Her work phone, the one she rarely used. The name on the screen? Boss's office. That was weird. Her boss never called this late. I let it ring. Then curiosity got the best of me. I picked it up. Silence at first. Then, a voice. A man's voice. "Lisa? Babe? You there?" My stomach dropped. I didn't say a word, just listened. The man chuckled. "Guess you're busy. Call me when you can. I miss you." The line went dead. And just like that, everything clicked. The late nights, the secrecy, the way she always had an excuse. Lisa wasn't at work. She wasn't with friends. She was with him. I didn't confront her right away. No, I needed more. I needed to be certain. The next few days were a blur of questions I couldn't ask and answers I couldn't find. I watched her more closely than I ever had before. Her behavior wasn't just strange, it was off. Her phone was always locked now. I'd catch her typing frantically when I walked by, and if I asked, she'd smile and change the subject. But it wasn't just that. Her tone was different, too. When she spoke to me, it was distant. There were no more "I love yous" before bed. No more "good mornings" when I woke up. It was like we were roommates, not husband and wife. I started noticing things around the house, too. Small things. Unused lipstick on the bathroom counter, clothes that didn't belong to her in the laundry. I'd ask where they came from, and she'd shrug, give some half-hearted excuse. Oh, I borrowed them from a friend. I didn't believe her. But what could I say? The doubt was already creeping in. One evening, after another work-late excuse, I sat in the living room, waiting for her to come home. My mind raced, spinning through every possible scenario, each one worse than the last. I wanted answers. I wanted to confront her. But what if I was wrong? What if I was just imagining it all? I told myself I had to be certain. Then I got the chance. Her phone buzzed again, but this time she left it on the kitchen counter. She was in the bathroom getting ready to go out. I hesitated. This was it. I glanced down at the screen. It was a text. I'll see you tonight. Can't wait for our time together. I miss you so much. There was no name, no identifier. Just the text. That was enough. I didn't even wait for her to come out of the bathroom. I grabbed my jacket and my keys and walked out. I didn't look back. When I left, something shifted. Like I knew deep down that I wasn't just leaving her. I was leaving the life I'd built with her, the one I thought was perfect, the one I thought was real. But what hurt more than anything was the thought of how she must have been feeling. How long had this been going on? Had she been pretending the whole time? How many of those I love yous were just lies? I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my friends. Not even my family. I just vanished. I didn't know where I was going, but it didn't matter. I just needed to leave. I drove aimlessly for hours, through streets I didn't recognize, past towns I'd never heard of. My head was a mess, full of the images of her with him, her voice laughing with someone else, her body entwined with a man who wasn't me. I couldn't think straight, but there was one thing I was certain of. I wanted revenge. I didn't know how or even what form it would take, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. 3 days. 3 days of silence. In those 3 days, I didn't go back home. I didn't reach out to anyone. I just let the world keep spinning without me. But my mind kept circling back to him, the man who had taken everything from me. I knew he had to be someone she was serious about. Her texts were too intimate, the way she smiled when his name flashed across her phone. It wasn't casual. She was in love with him. That pissed me off more than I could explain. On the 3rd day, I heard the knock at the door. I hadn't been keeping track of time, but I felt it. Something was coming, and I wasn't the least bit ready for it. I had no intention of answering, but curiosity got the better of me. I cracked the door open just enough to see who it was. A police officer. Her affair partner was wanted for multiple counts of fraud. He'd been using fake identities to secure large loans from various banks, draining them dry. And it wasn't just financial damage. There were several victims who had lost everything. It was big, real big. I stood there frozen, watching as the officer delivered the news. Lisa's affair partner. He's wanted. Authorities have no idea where he's hiding. I couldn't help the smirk that spread across my face. I didn't feel guilty. I should have, right? He was a criminal, and maybe I should have just let the law handle him, let them do their job. But I couldn't. Not when the pieces fell into place. I had no physical proof of Lisa's involvement with him. But I knew who could give me the evidence I needed. His phone. When I returned to the house that night, I didn't find her there. I didn't care. I took a breath and opened her laptop. It was unlocked. I had seen her type in the same password hundreds of times. I dug through her email inbox, through her messages with him. I found the address they'd been meeting at. I found the place where they'd made their plans. I even found a few photos, too. Ones that she'd sent him, posing in ways she never would have done for me. That was all I needed. I didn't call the police. I didn't need to. Instead, I sent the information, everything, straight to the authorities. They didn't know where to look, but now they had a direct lead. I watched, sat back, and waited. I knew he'd be caught. I knew his life was about to be ruined, and I couldn't help but feel satisfied. Then came the call from Lisa. Her voice was shaking. "Where are you? What have you done?" she demanded, panic rising in her tone. "Do you know what you've caused?" I didn't answer right away. I let her stew in her fear for a moment. I could hear her walking around, frantic. Her breathing was shallow. Finally, I spoke. "You think I don't know? You think I don't know what you did to me, what you did to us?" There was silence on the other end. She couldn't speak. I could tell she was processing everything, realizing just how far I'd gone. "You think he's going to get away with it? You think this is your little secret? You've got another thing coming." Her voice broke. "Please, please don't do this. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I could hear the desperation in her voice. But all I could think about was how easy it had been to destroy everything she had worked for. All those late nights, all the time she spent convincing me that she was committed to us, when all along she was giving herself to someone else. And now, the one person she trusted, the one person she thought would always have her back, was the one person who had set her up for the fall. The next morning, the news was everywhere. The police had tracked her affair partner down. He was in custody, facing charges that would put him away for a long time. But it wasn't just about him being caught. It was the realization that Lisa's world was about to collapse, too. The truth was out. And I didn't need to be involved at all. They didn't know I was the one who tipped them off. But they didn't need to. I didn't want to be the one to give her that satisfaction. I wanted her to think I was the one who'd orchestrated his downfall. Because that fear, it wasn't for him, it was for her. The days that followed were chaos. Lisa tried to call me multiple times, but I never picked up. I didn't need to hear her apologies, her excuses. The damage had been done, and I was done with her. The affair partner was in custody, and the charges stacked up against him. Fraud, identity theft, you name it. But Lisa. She was left to pick up the pieces of her crumbling life. And though I wasn't there to watch it happen, I knew it was going to hurt. She came by the house a few days later, standing outside, pleading with me to talk. I didn't let her in. She was shaking, tears running down her face. "Please, just listen to me. I made a mistake. I was lonely, and he I was weak, I swear. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." But I had no sympathy left. I'd been the one who gave everything. I'd been the one who sacrificed. And all along, she was thinking about him. "Don't you dare say you were lonely," I told her coldly. "You weren't lonely. You had me. And you destroyed that. For him." Her face crumpled. "Please, I didn't mean for any of this. I just thought I could have it all." "No, you wanted everything but never wanted to pay the price," I replied, stepping back from the door. I couldn't do it anymore. The trust, the love, it was gone. She stood there for what felt like forever, staring at the door, broken. But I didn't care. I didn't need to. Weeks went by. The affair was old news to everyone except Lisa. To her, the scandal still burned. To me, it was just another page in the book of a life I'd left behind. I filed for divorce shortly after, the paperwork quick and easy. Too easy. The hardest part was just walking away from the person I thought I knew. But like I said, I wasn't scared, I wasn't ashamed, I wasn't even angry anymore. I just didn't care. I heard through mutual friends that Lisa had tried to fix things with me, to explain herself. She even tried to blame the affair on how I had changed over the years, how I wasn't as present as I used to be. It didn't matter. She could tell herself whatever story she wanted. I heard she went to therapy, tried to move on with her life, but deep down, I knew she couldn't escape what she'd done. She'd lost more than just me. She'd lost herself. And that was a price she was going to have to pay for a long time. As for me, I was free. No more lies, no more questions, just a new chapter where I had learned exactly how far someone could go to destroy everything you believed in. And the last thing? I didn't need to get revenge. The world had done it for me. If you've ever felt betrayed or let down by someone you loved, you know how it feels to have your world turned upside down. But sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away and let life take its course. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you seek revenge, or would you let the truth catch up with them? Let me know in the comments. And if you've got a story of your own, share it with me. I'd love to hear how you've dealt with betrayal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and remember, no matter what happens, the truth always has a way of coming out in the end.